Today, let's talk about fantasy and how it's destroying our lives. We as INFJs have experienced probably the most blissful moments in our life, the most ecstasy-filled, amazing things in our mind. I know I have. And I've spoken to thousands of INFJs. This is something we all have in common. There are such great stories that are played out in our mind that are just taking over. They're so fantastic. They're so full of emotion. They create so much dopamine in our system that we can really stay there forever if we could. But the truth is, we can't. They always crumble. They can't stay this way if the reality doesn't match what is going on. That's just how we function. And so let's talk about how this amazing experience that might be one of the highlights of our life that we seek out, that we want to experience so much of, how wanting that and staying in that might actually destroy our life. Is it worth it? Are we willing to let it destroy us because it's so beautiful? Maybe. But let's talk about it today because we have to understand the possibilities our fantasy can give us and all the ways it's taking away from us. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you want to experience more of bliss in your real life, if you want to create something that's sustainable, that you feel like you can lean into and continuously grow with, then work with me one-on-one on creating your INFJ Epic Life or get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide. I also have a lot of free posters that you can check out. So everything you might need, you can find in the links in the description. If we think of hard drugs, and I don't know what I'm allowed to say here on YouTube, but the truth is, if you take like a strong drug, it will cause you to feel amazing. If you take some of those drugs that make you really euphoric, you feel like overall bliss. It will be the best experience ever. And you'll get addicted to that. And you will want more of that because nothing will make you feel so at peace. Nothing will make you feel so happy. All of those things. That does not mean, though, that this is what we should want long term. Because it's one moment. There's always some kind of crash behind it. And it's never really fulfilling us long term. But is that really a reason to stop? Because we know that our fantasies, we know that staying in our dream world is where actually so much of our creativity is born. And we also know it's not as unhealthy as like a hard drug. Most of the time, it's not really unhealthy at all. But we know that we can go overboard. We know that we can get stuck. We know that it's not going to lead us to a happy place. Because the moments when we experience the biggest bliss is if we take the hands off the steering wheel at all. So we allow to be simply observers. That's what feels best in the moment. And I've never experienced anything that contradicts that. It gives us highs, it gives us lows, it allows us to, experience the world, it allows us to experience other people, it allows us to go into our archetypical understanding of things. We can use music to emphasize it all. I've said it before in videos, the stories that have been in my mind, they're better than any movie I've seen, they're better than any book I've read. They are so full of emotions and of, beautiful stories and heartbreak and excitement and torture and all of that. And nobody on the outside knows it pretty much. But the fact is it exists. And so, you might think and ask yourself, why would I want anything else? Why is it a bad thing? And for the longest time, I was completely convinced that is like exactly what I want. Like, why do I care how my reality looks like if I can feel this way? Isn't that the goal, that we just feel great? But the problem is that every single time you let go of the steering wheel, it will crash at some point. That's inevitable. People will, lean into their negative behaviors if you don't stop them, just because they're human. You will not feel like this is in alignment with what reality is, for example. So, for example, you having this vision of your mind, oh, that's a good person and they're acting this way because they're hurting. I want to stay connected to that because there's so much excitement and so much, color in my life and all of that. But the reality is that person is treating you bad. And so you can't hold on to this fantasy of, oh, this is a good person and they're just hurting and all of that, if we don't look at the reality, which is this is also a person who's hurting you. And that's what we have to recognize, that you can experience the most beautiful things in your mind, but they're not going to get you where you want to get long term. So think of it. Yes, I can do drugs. Yes, I can get really drunk. Yes, this can make me feel good in the moment. And it can make me also experience really beautiful moments. And I've experienced beautiful moments being in a more relaxed state. But long term, it is not really giving me what I want. What would be best for us? And let's say this like black and white example is the one person who's like getting drunk all night, like going to parties, experiencing things like in that world. And the equivalent to that would be, oh, that's a person who actually works out, who minds their sleep, who makes sure their body is healthy, who goes and, creates the career that they want and the family that they want and the purpose that they want and the wealth that they want. This is how it would look like for Sensor. Right? This is the bad example. This is the good example. So how does that look like for us as lead intuitives? For us, it's exactly the same things. The thing that makes us feel the best in the moment is allowing life just to happen. And for us to be completely in a flow state where we're not taking control. This is what we want. This is what the undisciplined version of us feels like is the most natural one, but it's not what is healthiest for us. So we do have to discipline ourselves a little bit. And that discipline doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be the opposite of, drinking and partying, because we're not drinking and partying most of the time. Most of the time, we're just staying in our head too much. It's about like taking steps in the real world. It's progress. When you create progress in your life, and you're willing to give up some of the excitement of the moment, you're actually creating happiness long term. You're creating something that is sustainable. So often we go into our head because it's an escape. It's a natural thing to do, but it's still an escape. And we're going to do more and more of that when the reality doesn't match what we want. So if we have the boring job, if we don't have the friends that we would like, if we're not having the impact in the world that we would like to have, then of course we're going to go into our mind and create those beautiful stories of a person who has the potential to be the person who saves our life, who now finally gives us meaning because we could save them or we could inspire them and whatever it could be. But it doesn't work. If it has ever worked for you, please let me know. Because every single time I've gone to those extremes, and I've done this a couple of times in my life, and I don't regret it for one instance, because I had to go there in order, first off, to experience it all, to know that I've had enough of this. Similarly, how some people say, oh, I've had enough of my partying days. And to know that I'm not going to find something there that I haven't found yet. It always led to pain if I let go of the steering wheel. And taking control of the steering wheel means I have to be more present in the real world. Because the more you change your real world, the less you actually have to escape into your mind. We're always going to use our mind. We're always going to use our imagination. But we probably tend to go overboard. And you see this with other types all the time. You see it with FE, DOMs like ESFJs and ENFJs when they're all about, controlling the emotional atmosphere, even at their own expense and at the expense of others. I've seen it with, ESTPs and ESFPs who are all about, I have to experience this now and just go, and don't understand that they also have to tap into their introverted intuition. They have to counterbalance that. There has to be a path forward. You can't just go out and experience everything. Because if we overdo our first function, it just doesn't lead to a fulfilled life. And that's the same thing for us. So just because something feels intuitively right, like going into our fantasy and, allowing things to happen and not controlling our life and our environment, that does not mean that that's the right thing to do. And so if you're in between those states and you don't know why you should, go the other route, just try it out. That's what everything I do here is all about. Me going so far out in the abyss, me being so disconnected from reality, me being completely in my mind, having reality breaks and everything that, is connected to that, to recognize I can't do that anymore. I want to, but I can't. And that's when I started going into the other direction. That's why everything I talk about is creating an INFJ epic life. Because the truth is, we're also connected to the real world. Yes, those ideas are great in an ideal world, but we're not living in an ideal world. We can, however, give our input into what is currently happening in order to lean into an ideal world. Leaning into an ideal world is actually the best of both worlds. And that means that we have to cut off that part of ourselves that feels so natural. Just think of it like this. If you love to party and you love to go out and, go overboard and be really impulsive, we see this in other people, probably not in ourselves because we don't have that tendency, but we see those people and we know you actually have to discipline yourself a little bit. Just because that's your impulse doesn't mean that that's going to create the best outcome for you long term. Similarly, we have to understand that just because something feels great in the moment, it might not be what is going to lead us to where we want to go. And the better our reality represents what we want it to be, the less we will need to go inside for escape. We're always going to have access to our introverted intuition. We're always going to, live in archetypes and images and experiencing life in this wonderful way. But we don't have to go overboard. We can balance it out. And the thing that works really well for me is to really think of it as in, I'm putting blinders on. I'm not allowing myself to go up there to such an extent. I'm forcing myself to be present. And I can tell you, I cannot be present for a long period of time. I cannot. It is not possible for me. That being said, I can put anchors in. I can use the energy that I do have while I'm present to make moves that are going to anchor and change my life towards the way I want it to be. So for example, I cannot be present with my kids all the time. I'm not able to. I see it in others. And I'm not envying them. I just know this is something I wish I would be able to do, but I'm not that person. So I have to know the energy that I put into the real world has to be very deliberate. So often we can go through life and, still stay in our mind, and that's going to be our default state anyway. But if we're able to just cut off a little bit of that introverted intuition in order to tap into reality, we're going to feel the progress. We're going to, use our energy and putting it into areas that are going to make long-lasting differences in our life. We can help people by showing them an example of a balanced life. The bootcamp, for example, and I also have a free poster on the 5 pillars to an INFJ epic life, that is the basis of the bootcamp, is all about that. We don't have that much energy. We don't have that much energy to be present in the world. So if we do that, we have to really make sure that we prioritize the things that are going to make that difference. We're going to write that book. We're going to put effort into the things that are going to make a difference in our life. We're going to put effort into creating the boundaries that are going to help us lean into becoming the person we want to be. We're going to apply for that job that will allow us to be more in alignment with who we want to be. And we're also going to make sure that we increase the energy that we possibly could have in order to be able to make those choices. Because if you look at it in extremes, our default unhealthy side would be, I'm going to do as little as possible in the real world so I can stay in my mind. And if that leads to happiness, I would co-sign it. I would say go for it. I would, encourage you to do that. But I haven't found an INFJ who's found peace and serenity and happiness through that. Your environment has to give you the opportunity to live in your mind. So if you have people around you who don't appreciate that, guess what? You have to change your environment. If you have a job that doesn't allow you to lean into who you want to be, change that. And again, this is not about, oh, now I have it all or now I don't have anything. But if you say, I'm going to tap into progress, I'm going to lean into creating an environment that allows me to be who I am, that allows me to share my gift, that allows me to speak my truth, that allows me to, live the life the way I see fit, the best that I possibly can at this moment, then you will feel long-lasting reward. You will have more and more energy. You will feel more and more fulfilled. And I see this not only in myself, I see it in all the INFJs that I've worked with. I see it in our community. I see it in the INFJ sphere altogether, because it's a huge difference from where, the INFJ space was 10 years ago when I started and where it's now. It's a huge shift, and I'm super proud to be part of it, because we can create a better world. We can create a better world, not just for ourselves, but also for other people. But it all starts with us disciplining ourselves into being more of something that is also part of us, but that is just harder for us. You have to make a sacrifice in your intuition in order to tap into the real world, right? Introverted intuition, extroverted sensing. It becomes a blend. But the more we use our energy to ground ourselves, the less we have the capacity to, go into our introverted intuition. But as a general rule, just know every single personality type overdoes their first function in a way that is not beneficial, in a way that creates unhealthy results for us and everybody around. And it's so much easier to see in other people. Also INFPs. Oh, like you're experiencing too many emotions, like you're suffering. Why? Just don't think about it so much. Don't feel so much. That's how it might look like from the outside. It's difficult for a person who's in it to change it. But we also know you would be happier if you would balance yourself a little bit, if you wouldn't be so emotional, right? For us, it would also be so much better if we weren't so detached from reality. Attach a little bit. Show a little bit more of who you are. You're never going to show up like an ESTP, although this is how it feels like. I seriously thought when I started this process, I will look like an ESTP, like this person who's, just all about conquering and like doing what they want. We know this is the furthest from the truth. Like I have ESTPs in my life. I see the difference. I see the difference very clearly, but that's how it feels like to us. We're always going to be an INFJ. We're always going to look in a way like an INFJ, even more so when we tap into reality, because then we're willing to make choices that represent who we are on the inside. And that includes us knowing that what is best for us, being our best friend, being the parent to our inner child, also includes that we also have to put a little bit of blindfolds on when it comes to our introverted intuition. We don't have to analyze everything and understand why other people are going into so much pain if that experience is causing us a lot of pain. If we can learn something from it, great. But we also have to make sure that there is an anchoring into reality. If we don't do that, we will not find lasting and fulfilling happiness. We will not be able to live in our purpose. And if you're able to do that, I'm curious, let me know. I would love to know that. I have not experienced this. I've never found an INFJ who has experienced that. And the truth is, we're not this person with these three functions, right? Extroverted sensing. Reality is part of who we are. And what we're doing is we're completely neglecting that. So how can choosing us be wrong? And we are not just one-dimensional. We're not just introverted intuition. We're also everything else that we have access to. So just because it's hard to tap into reality, that does not mean that that's not the right path forward. So if you have a hard time like applying that to yourself, just look how it looks like for other people. It is so easy to see in other people who go overboard in their first function. It happens for us as well. And know that if you put a little bit of those blinders on, there's so much you can create in the real world. There's so much of who you are that will come out that just by default will be unique, will inspire others, and will allow others to actually see you. The thing that we want so much, but people are not capable of seeing us if we are only experiencing everything in our mind. Share that with the world. Put your anchor in. Make other people see your perspective, not by explaining it or by, being there for them, but by the choices you make in the real world, by the way you create your life. It will look unique to others. It will look like you. And through that, you additionally allow others to connect with the real you. So I really encourage you, make those steps. Start taking all of your ideas into the real world. Anchor yourself in and keep growing. If you want my personal help in this process, or you want to do it by yourself with the help of the audio guide that I offer, you can find both of them in the links in the descriptions. I also offer a lot of free material you can find there. So everything you might need, you can find in the links. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.